Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Hey, have you read this book? Today's book is Empress Dowager Cixi, written by Chang. Chang spent years researching the life of Empress Dowager Cixi and found out that much of what we learnt about the Empress Dowager is untrue. Cixi's policies changed China from a backward country to a modern nation. In 1850, Emperor Daoguang of China died and was succeeded by his son, Emperor Shang, who was 19 years old. Cixi became a concubine to the Empress Shang in 1852, when she was 16 years old. As a Manchu, Cixi was spared foot binding, a custom which the Han Chinese practiced. A girl named Shen had entered the court as a concubine with Cixi. Shen was quickly promoted to the Empress because she had the personality to manage the concubines. Empress Shang faced huge problems. The Taiping rebel army, driven by famine, grew to hundreds of thousands and set up an opposing state in Nanjing. There were also many other uprisings. Treasures in the Forbidden City were melted down for the gold to pay for the soldiers who were fighting the rebels. Cixi, who was used to discussing state affairs with her father, tried to offer suggestions to the emperor on how to deal with the country's problems. But tradition forbade concubines from having anything to do with state affairs, and Cixi risked deadly punishment by giving her views to the emperor. Luckily, Empress Shen intervened and protected Cixi. Cixi became devoted to Empress Shen and they became lifelong friends. Cixi learned not to talk about state affairs with the emperor, and in 1856 she gave birth to a son, the first son of the emperor. The British wanted more Chinese ports to be open for trade. When Emperor Shang resisted, the British dispatched a fleet of warships to China and 20,000 British troops marched to Beijing. On the emperor's orders, the British negotiators were captured and tortured, and some died. The British retaliated by the looting and burning of the Summer Palace, a 350-hectare complex of pavilions, temples, pagodas, and gardens. The fire raged for days, covering West Beijing in black smoke. The Chinese army were defeated on the outskirts of Beijing, and Emperor Shang fled to the Royal Hunting Lodge 200 kilometers away on the Mongolian steppes. The emperor had left his half-brother Prince Jung to deal with invaders and sign treaties with the British and the French. The emperor refused to go back to Beijing until the British and French left, but spending the harsh winter in the north caused him to become ill, and he died a year after arriving at the lodge. After the emperor died, Cixi's son, who was only a child, became the emperor. Cixi schemed with Empress Shen to dismiss the board of regents, whose advice to the emperor had ended in disaster. Empress Shen and Cixi both officially became Empress Dowagers, and they sought support from Prince Gong and Prince Chun, the late emperor's half-brothers. 3 of the worst regents were put to death and the rest dismissed. Cixi became the one who projected authority and was the final decision-maker, while Empress Shen willingly agreed to the new changes. Cixi encouraged critical comments from the other officials, and she was careful not to go against the opinion of the majority. Unlike the late emperor, Cixi accepted help from Westerners to help fight the Taiping rebels, but only to help train and arm local Chinese, keeping the Chinese in command. Nanjing was finally recaptured in 1864 after 15 years of war. Also, unlike the late emperor, Cixi encouraged trade with the West, with the result that China's customs revenues grew and the country was lifted out of poverty. Chinese customs, which was rife with corruption, became well regulated under Robert Hart, who Cixi appointed, even though employing foreigners caused resentment amongst the Chinese. Cixi's motto was to make China strong, and foreigners were employed to train troops for a modern navy and army. Cixi had a close working relationship with Prince Jung, and they worked together to modernize China. Despite fierce opposition, they started schools to teach science. For 2,000 years, only the classics had been taught. Cixi also sent Chinese overseas to learn new ideas for modernizing China. Prince Chun, a younger half-brother to the late emperor who at first supported Cixi, wanted to avenge the West for what they had done to China. Many Chinese shared these sentiments, and with Prince Chun's encouragement, started to form groups to attack and massacre the missionaries and Chinese Christians. Prince Chun's anti-foreign attitude was popular, and Cixi knew that a battle with Prince Chun would destabilize the country, so she avoided any argument with him. Under her leadership, Cixi had brought peace, stability, and increased wealth to China. When he was 16, Cixi's son became the emperor, and the two Empress Dowagers retired. Emperor Tongzhi had always been bored with any kind of study and had no initiative of his own, and soon got tired of reading reports and issuing edicts. After 2 years of being emperor, Tongzhi became sick with smallpox and died. When he was sick, he had asked the two Empress Dowagers to run the empire. After Emperor Tongzhi's death, Cixi and Empress Shen decided to adopt Cixi's 3-year-old nephew, the son of Prince Chun and Cixi's sister, so he would become the next emperor. As the biological father of the emperor, Prince Chun had to resign from his position in the government. Cixi had effectively silenced Prince Chun, but Cixi did not try to destroy her opponents. By treating them kindly, she won them over. Cixi decided to build a stronger navy as Japan was trying to expand its empire. Facing resistance, Cixi updated the country's currency, developed the coal mining industry, and recaptured from Russia Xinjiang, a huge territory in Central Asia. France was demanding 250 million francs from China. While most of the officials were willing to give in, Cixi refused. After many battles, the two countries signed a peace treaty. Cixi's reign was of tolerance, and people were not killed for their beliefs. Cixi also initiated the import of food to alleviate poverty. In 1889, Cixi retired, and her 17-year-old adopted son became emperor. Emperor Guangxu sought advice from Grand Tutor Wang, who had taught the emperor since he was a young boy. As a result, the emperor stopped spending money on modernizing China and defense, while Japan kept building up its navy, tried to take Taiwan, and demanded 200 million taels of silver from China. When Emperor Guangxu finally asked for Cixi's advice, she advised rejecting Japan's demands, but Emperor Guangxu caved in to the Japanese. After this disastrous outcome, Emperor Guangxu knew that he needed Cixi to help rule the empire, and they worked together to modernize China. However, a cunning Cantonese called Wild Fox Khan wanted the throne for himself, so he tried to worm his way into the government through the emperor, demonized Cixi, spread malicious rumors about her, and plotted many ways to kill her. Read this book to find out how Cixi dealt with Wild Fox Khan, how Emperor Guangxu died, what happened to his favourite concubine Pearl, and to little An, the eunuch Cixi fell in love with. You will find so much to admire about this exceptional woman, who entertained foreign women at the palace, put an end to foot binding, and stopped the importing of opium. History has been unkind to Cixi, who has been described as tyrannical and incompetent, but the truth was that she lifted China out of poverty and ignorance and brought modernity, education and freedom to the Chinese people. I highly recommend this book. Thanks for watching.